Welcome to the Racing Nuggets podcast. I'm PJ Noodleman, joined by my co-host, actually guest this week. It's Dan Plan. Hey, Dan, how are you?
Scraping the bottom of the barrel, have me as a guest again.
Well, here's the thing. I know you have a very busy schedule. It hasn't been always conducive for you to join me on the podcast. And sometimes I'm running ass over tea kettle to get somebody scheduled, so it doesn't always work out. But you're still going to be considered my co host. And I know that you'll be back on here when we have some different special guests or whenever it works. But I wanted to have you on as a guest because there's a lot that you do in the racing community that a lot of people probably don't realize. Obviously, you have the Midwest Racing Connection, and I wanted to ask you just to kind of explain to everybody how you came to being the proprietor of the Midwest Racing Connection.
Well, I'm a lifelong race fan. Still am. But I grew up reading checkered flag racing news. I would run to the mailbox every Friday afternoon to get that. And it's 1997 is when Rob Hahn started. It was Minnesota's Racing Connection. It mainly focused on Elco and Raceway and Cedar Lake. Um, and a couple years after he started it, Martin DeFries, a good friend of mine, the track photographer at Elco and used to be at Raceway, suggested that I write a column. So that's how I got involved with the paper. And then at the time, Rob had, I think, three papers. He had the Minnesota Racing Connection. He had a more of a national one that was sent to some of the most of the NASCAR weekly tracks, which that lasted for a few years. I helped out with that one. And then he had a wine paper too. So the opportunity to buy this paper came up. So I bought it, changed it to the Midwest Racing Connection, and then added people such as yourself and Charlie Spry, who used to write for Checkered Flag, Dale Danielski, that used to write for Checkered Flag. Jason Searcy's a regular columnist now. And we've had other people in the past that have written columns and gone on to do other things, like Jordan Bianchi, who now is um, doing a Dirty Mo podcast. Um, Chatty Matty wrote a column for a while. She's an IRA co-announcer. So had some other people that have come through and gone on and done other things. But yeah, it's been fun. Uh it's not how I make my money. I'll say that. I got to do other things to pay the bills, but I've always maintained as long as the paper pays its bills, I'll keep doing it.
Nice. And you actually do have kind of like a part-time job, right?
I do.
That
I
you're doing?
work I work part-time with a little. It's kind of like the family farm. It's Mark Lamoureux, who was like 76 Elco champion and 92 lacrosse track champion. It's a small family business, so I work there 2 days a week, and it's nice working, going from, the 1,000 person corporate company to a, 4 or 5 person family run business, and it's a much more casual environment to work in. Although it is definitely the wrong 2 summers to go from working in air conditioning for 35 years to an unair conditioned warehouse, but I'm surviving.
You're better for it though, right? Builds
Yeah.
builds character.
Yes.
You actually have always been involved in racing. Was it your dad that introduced you to racing as a kid?
Yeah. The story has my mom said, I went when I was in diapers, and she said I would purposely throw my baby bottle under the bleachers so my dad would have to miss the races and go get it. But yeah, always went with my dad, even when, even like when I was in high school and everybody be going to high school football games and stuff like that, I was still going to the races with my dad. And he hasn't gone for a couple years. His eyesight's not doing the best, and he's more of a dirt racing fan, and the dust does bother his eyes. But I've got him, I got him Flow and Dirt Vision and FYE streaming subscription, so he can still watch everything from the comfort of his basement. So,
Who are some of your heroes when you were growing up in racing?
my local favorite was Dan Shabrowski. I've got my little Dan Shabrowski shrine over here. Um, I always thought it was neat that, even though it's Shabrowski, it starts with a P. So he was Dan P. So kind of the same initials. I graduated from high school in 1985, and his car number was 85. So I thought that was cool. On the national side, growing up, I was more of a Richard Petty fan. Um, And then, as the Wisconsin guys started to make their way down there, like Kawicki and Ken Seth, those are the guys that I pulled forward. And of course, Dick Trickle, everybody's got the same story. He would come to Elko, show up after time trials were just about done, and you'd see that old Ford hauler coming down County Road 2 and rolling in the gate and back off the back off the hauler and set fast time. I think he did that every track in the upper Midwest. Everybody seems to have the same story. So
The legend just keeps growing with him, doesn't
yes.
it? Yeah, yeah. When you when you actually you go to every kind of race, right? I mean, you've got Cedar Lake is one of your favorite haunts these days, it seems, right?
Yeah, these days now that I have more time to go to races, I actually haven't been. It's usually just because I'm going by myself and it's a long drive to go anywhere. Elko and Elko is the closest, and Cedar Lake is the second closest to my house, so that's where most of my time goes. But I do, this time of year, I'll probably venture over to Menominee, which is like an hour and a half from my house, and then you got specials coming up, the Dells and Oktoberfest and Ogilvy and all that stuff. So that's what my column's going to be for the next issue. It's the most wonderful time of the year because you've got all the fall specials coming up now.
And you got the Dolphin all ready to go, your RV.
Yeah, we had a little snafu with that a couple weeks ago. We were going to go on a camping trip because my RV, I'm sure like most race fans, the RV mainly goes to racetracks. It doesn't necessarily go to campgrounds all that often. But yeah, we were getting ready to go, and the air pressure line for the air brakes finally after 30 years wore a hole out, so it wouldn't move out of the driveway. So we still got to get one of them camping trips in. But yeah, the Dolphin is now primed and ready to go for the postseason specials.
Your wife, Robin, is a real trooper. I mean, she kind of lets you do what you want to do with the racing, and she amuses you or you amuse her.
Yeah,
You guys have a good relationship.
she's very understanding of my hobby, my passion for my hobby. And I always used to joke, like the first weekend in November when I'm home on a Saturday night, she'll look at me and say, "Don't you have somewhere to go?" But no, it works out well. She likes to spend more time with her dog, and I like to spend time at the races. And she does go. She'll go if my son goes. She'll go with. She won't necessarily go into the races, but if my son and daughter-in-law bring their camper, she'll come out so we can hang out during the day. So
Very
it works
nice.
out.
Very nice. What is or what has been probably maybe one or two of your favorite races so far this year that you went to that were just like a real barn burner?
The most recent one was probably the USA Nationals that just took place at Cedar Lake. Um, we can be in the middle of a record drought and there's guaranteed to be rain one of the 3 days out there. And this year it rained Wednesday, so they lost the Thursday night show, ran it Friday afternoon, then cleared out the bleachers, ran the Friday night show. And then Saturday looked like it was going to be a picture perfect day, and the forecast called for rain, and they really had to hustle. And I know some fans are disappointed that the race didn't go the full distance, but they made it just past the halfway point, and the rain let loose, and they threw the caution and the yellow, or the caution and the checkered at the same time. And Bobby Pierce, as soon as he took the checker, the track was slick, and he slid all the way up, just touched the wall. If they would have kept racing, the whole field would have piled up. I was joking with the owner saying, that was exciting. Maybe every year you just tell everybody, all right, we're racing to lap 50, and somewhere between 50 and 100, we're going to turn the sprinklers on and call it a race. But they didn't think that was a good idea.
Eh, Funny. You have seen and been a part of some pretty funny stuff too throughout the years. Do you have any particular memories that stick to your head that are really hilarious that you have either witnessed or been a part of?
Yeah, I think it's been many years, probably 10 or 15 years where we took a Wisconsin racing trip. I think it was when they ran the tour on a Tuesday night at Madison. And I was with Kuroki Dave, Conrad, and Brian Turtle. And we went to Madison Tuesday. Then we went to um, 141 up in Maribel. Used to run on Wednesday nights. And then we went to Kaukauna on Thursday, back to Madison Friday. But at the tour race. I think Matt Kenseth had set fast time, and Chris Merrick also set fast time for the sportsman class. And they were driving the golf cart through the pits, picking up the fast qualifiers to bring them out on the track. And Cruiser gets on the golf cart next to Matt Kenseth, and he says, "Hey, I'm Chris. Where do you normally race?" Matt's got a pretty dry sense of humor too, so he enjoyed that.
That's funny.
And then we
That's
lost
funny.
we lost the bus the next day. I think the uh, Dave has like a 1958 Greyhound bus that's been converted into an RV, and the one of the front tires blew out and it ripped off a brake line, and that was it's always something when you're going on trips like that. So that was a little bit of a delay in our trip to get all that fixed up and back on the road again.
You're pretty good friends with the folks who do the Pink Flamingo at Oktoberfest. As a matter of fact, I think you even had your own refrigerator there, if memory serves correct.
Well, it's not really mine. I think I just wrote my name on it one year, and then it's just kind of been a running joke. I autograph it every year. No, I've got, Conrad and his brother Dan, I think, started around the same time my friend Bob started racing at Elco in the late 80s, early 90s, and got to know them guys pretty good through the years. And I've been on a couple of racing trips with them. I don't see them as often as much because Elco's kind of got a limited schedule these days. So they only had 12 events on their schedule this year, but I still make it down there when I can, and it doesn't, there's, if the World of Outlaws or the USA Nationals is going on at Cedar Lake, I'm gonna go to that.
Yeah. There is a big race coming up at Elko for the Midwest Tour on September 21st, Thunderstruck. That's a pretty big deal with the Ryan clan. And obviously the Fredericksons are very involved in that as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think last year it got rained out, and um, haven't had supers at Elko in quite a few years, so it'll be nice. Hopefully, a lot of the tour guys will venture over this way. I know it's not a short drive for a lot of the guys to come over this way, but looking forward to that. It's my understanding too, they're going to run all of the weekly divisions too, so it'll probably start a little earlier in the afternoon to get all the preliminary stuff done, and then the big Thunderstruck main event that night. So I'm really looking forward to that, and look forward to seeing. Hopefully, a lot of the Minnesota guys still have their supers laying around that they can bring out and run that show.
Yeah, I was kind of curious if you thought there were going to be some blowing the dust off to come out and play.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would imagine Danny's gonna bring a car. Him and Ty will run. Jacob's still been running his off and on. I see Kesky just ran down to Cedar Rapids, so and I know Billy Moan destroyed his car at Lacrosse, so he's
Mm.
probably not gonna be able to make that. But hopefully, there's still a few guys out there that can blow the dust off their cars and take the crushed velvet rope that they got sitting around them and bring them out and race with them.
The crushed velvet
Crushed
rope.
velvet rope and mirrors.
Oh, you're a card. I was going to talk a little bit more about that Elko track. I mean, it's there's also Little Elko right outside of it. And it's kind of fun because there's a lot of hard-nosed racers whose kids are now cutting their teeth over at Little Elko. That's quite the little facility too.
Yeah, that has in the probably the last 3 years, I bet you it's probably, quadrupled in car count. There's a lot of racers now whose kids are racing, and even grandkids of racers that are out there now these days. And some like the Gadies have, I think 5 or 6 cars they bring, and a lot of them, a lot of the families, their kids run in multiple classes, so it's a big deal these days. When I went, 10 years ago, there might have been 10 kids down there running, and now I think they're up around the 50 point. So there's a lot of interest in that these days. And I think right now a lot of them, I think they're down in Missouri running they partner with some other state quarter midget associations and Kansas City kids and stuff came up here earlier this summer and raced for a weekend, and then the Elko people go down Indianapolis or Kansas or whatnot and run at their track for a weekend.
There's a lot of gloom and doom around racing, it seems sometimes. But when you see these kids that are really active in it, particularly at like Little Elko, kind of gives you I don't know, hope, right?
Yeah, it is encouraging to see, those kids and see how good some of them are. Um, and even like on the dirt side, the micro and karting side, and like Panitsky's kid Cam, he's up into a legend car now, and just last week I think Cam got fifth in both Legends features. And I didn't really notice much in the first feature, but in the second feature, he started on the front row, and I'm like, man, that kid's like 12 years old. I figured they'd have him start in the back, but he started on the front row and held his ground and ran a good race. So you can see there is a future out there. There's a lot of young kids coming up.
Do you see more kids leaning then towards dirt, or do you think that they're going to continue to try to find a way in asphalt?
Well, there's definitely a lot more at the quarter midget track from what I can see. But it all depends on what they're comfortable with, which way they're gonna go.
All right. And then my one of my final questions is what is next year going to look like for Dan Plan? Because you always map out your year in racing. Are you going to be hitting a very uh robust schedule in 2025?
I think I want to go to more. I keep telling myself I'd like to get to some of these week. I've got several tracks around me that run like there's Wilmer, which is only like an hour and a half away that runs Thursday nights. The challenging part is just, dealing with the traffic. But I've got time, right? I could just leave at noon and go sightseeing and not have to sit in traffic and go somewhere. And Fairmont's not too far away. I think they run on weeknights, so I want to try to do more of that next year. Um, I'm probably going to be doing more with I started doing some work with the IMCA old timers. They got a nice building. Joey Miller did a lot of work to get the building put up at the Dakota County Fairgrounds, and it's a really nice facility. They used to always just they would rent a tent and just have stuff on display, and now they've got a permanent structure that is very professionally built, and it's really cool to see. So doing that, I probably bit off more than I can chew because in their display they have a bunch of old VHS tapes of races from years past that they would just play on a VCR. And I volunteered to convert them to digital, but there's probably, and again, I'm sitting right here, there's like 60 VHS tapes. So that's a good winter project, I think.
That's a huge winter project, but
Yeah.
good for you though for helping out. I think that's a pretty cool project actually.
Yeah, it's neat to hang out with those guys. That's somebody who probably need to get on here is Skip Pollock. He can tell a story and he knows a lot of people and he's been around the sport for a long time and he's a real good storyteller.
Well, I look forward to having him and you back on then very
Sure.
soon. Is there some event that you have never gone to, Dan, that you'd really like to go to?
Yeah, I think it used to be the Syracuse Mile that where they run the dirt modifieds on that big track. But that's gone now. Oswego for the supermods, that's one I kind of think would be cool to go to. Oxford 250 would be another one, and I think the Milk Bowl.
Mm.
And this would be my niece, my wife's niece, and my niece now. They live in Vermont, so I keep trying. I think their weekly night is like Thursday. I'm like, we should go visit your niece sometime, and I can go to the races in Vermont, but we'll see how that goes.
You are the king of working things out so that there's a good family angle to it and a racing angle to it.
Yeah, I used to do that a lot. Oh, look, we go camping. Like, let's go up to when there was the racetrack in Sauk Center. There was a nice campground up around there and drive and exit the highway. Oh, look, there's a racetrack over there. Hey, maybe we should go there too.
You're a card. You are a card. Well, what is on tap then for you yet the rest of this season? Obviously, I'll see you at Oktoberfest. You mentioned the Dells. Are you going to the Jim Sauter Classic?
I'm not sure if I'm gonna make that. Probably be at Elco for Labor Day weekend. And then the weekend after that is the Richard Memorial Race at Cedar Lake. And then the weekend after that, I'm torn between the Legendary 100, which is a 3-day show at Cedar Lake, or the National Short Track Championships, which are going to
Mm.
be at the Dells this year. So
That's kind of cool that they're continuing that.
yeah, I think that's really cool. And I guess David's been doing some of they added a figure eight track down at Grundy, so they do some of the the bus race destruction stuff now that they used to do at Rockford down at Grundy. So that's cool to see those things continue on. Yeah, after that, then it's the Punky at Red Cedar, but I'll just go to one day of that because then the next day is Thunderstruck at Elco. 28th, I'm up in the air, and then it's Oktoberfest. So it's
Yeehaw.
it's the best time of the year.
Are you going down for the Snowball Derby or that Freedom Factory race?
I'd probably lean more towards the Bigley Freedom Factory one than the Derby. Um,
Good.
Definitely more concise race. The Derby's a lot of practice.
Pomp and circumstance.
Yeah. I mean, if you like
Yeah.
to watch practice, that's the place to go.
You're not lying. But if you're going to the Bigley, then I look forward to having a few cocktails with you again.
Yeah, well, keep yourself in line this time.
No promises. No promises. Did you ever race? I wanted to ask you that too. I know you raced like go-karts at one point, but did you ever race like race cars?
I drove my friend Bob's car twice. I actually still have the paycheck somewhere around because they a bunch of people in the heat race, a bunch of people wrecked. And then on the last lap, somebody spun out in front of me, and I ended up getting like third. I think they started 12 cars, so that was pretty fantastic. And then I drove. They used to have these. They were track cars at Raceway Park. They're just like bone stock Monte Carlos with the glass taken out and a racing seat in them. So they had a couple of media races. I think I got second in one of those one time. So I've
Nice.
always thought I could do it, but I drove Mike Wilson's from Wilson Fuel. He had a vintage car. I drove that at Cedar Lake the one year, and that's when I knew I was in over my head. That
Why?
was,
Why? What happened?
it's just I thought I was doing pretty good. He had me out there with like the super modifieds, just ungodly fast cars, and I'm driving like a 32 coupe that was like a straight axle, drum brakes, and yeah, I was doing everything I could to just keep the thing under control, and then have somebody go flying by you that's going 50 miles an hour faster. I was like, yeah, I need to sit in the stands.
Oh, you are a peach, Dan. You
Yeah,
really are. I appreciate everything you've done for me, letting me write for your column, even though I haven't been consistent, but yeah, I'm trying. And doing the podcast with me as well. And I look forward to having you back on periodically as well as it works with your schedule.
sure.
And I really look forward to seeing you again at another race. I have a gift for you, and I still haven't given it to you, but it was from when you drove me to the airport back in April.
Oh,
But I hope you like it. I don't have it here to show it to you, so I'll just give it to you when I see you next, which I'm not sure when that will be.
I'd be fast, I'm thinking.
You
Or
think
if you're going to
so?
go to short track at
I'm thinking I
Dallas.
will. I think I will. I'm gonna go to
Are
the
you going to come for
Sodders.
Thunderstruck?
I'm coming for that too, so
There
maybe
you
I'll
go.
just plan on that.
You should
I'll
tell
see you
Chris and
there.
Craig you can't stay overnight at the track, but I can run an extension cord from my garage if they want to park the rig here overnight.
Make a note of that. Oh, you're a nut. Well, Tobe and I look forward to seeing you again soon, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you and have a great afternoon.
I'll try.